Hello, welcome to the first of hopefully many episodes of I Hope You Suffer, a podcast about horror movies. My name is Nathan,
I'm Kit.
and we don't know what we're doing. So this
Very true.
should
On
go,
every level.
go very well. Yeah, in life, everything. So what do you want to talk about first?
How about we kick things off with kind of what got us into horror movies?
All right, well, you go ahead and go first.
Honestly, it's probably Blockbuster. Going there to rent movies as a kid, I always found myself wandering through the horror movie aisle and being absolutely fucking traumatized by everything that I saw. The cover for Wishmaster freaked me out a lot as a kid. Dentist 2, where the woman has all of her teeth replaced by like sharp knives. Jason Goes to Hell with the snake coming out of the mask.
That's a good one.
All that kind of stuff. Just see it like, what the fuck is this? And I don't know, being kind of a creative kid, it intrigued me on some level. So started kind of diving into it as I got older. Like, what were all those movies that looked absolutely mortifying as a child? And I don't know, I just kind of grew to appreciate how creative horror movies were, how many ways you can dismember a person or, come up with a fucked up looking creature.
Do you remember the first movie you saw?
I don't know if I recall the exact first movie I saw, but the first one that really freaked me out was probably Gremlins. It's not strictly a horror movie, but
It's weird how much that seems like a very kid-friendly movie until you watch it.
yeah, my God, it might have actually been Gremlins 2. I refused to eat vegetables and salad and shit until I was like 20 because of the salad gremlin that pops out. That fucked me up.
I have like distinct memories of being like around 7, somewhere really young, and like I was supposed to have gone to bed, and I walked out in the living room to my dad watching Child's Play. And like
Pass.
that's the last thing you want to see when you're like super young is a kid's toy coming to life and murdering people.
Return to your bed with all of your stuffed animals.
Yeah, and it was like I remember that, and I specifically remember him watching the It miniseries with Tim Curry, which is like another one you don't want to see when you're a kid.
It's the least scary thing in the world to watch as an adult.
Oh yeah,
I watched it for the first time last year, and I don't know why everyone was scared of Tim Curry's Boston accent. Hiya, Georgie. You want to come down here and get a balloon?
I mean I have not seen the remake, mostly because most remakes are terrible.
And there's no Boston accents in it.
Yeah, and Tim Curry's not in it, so like why bother? But it like just from the trailers alone, it at least looks like 3,000% scarier than the miniseries.
I feel like 3,000% is a pretty good estimate.
So I'm trying to like, do you remember what the first horror movie you rented is? Since you talked about Blockbuster.
Oh man, I don't think I do, honestly.
I'm trying to like I was trying to think about like what I remember renting, and all I can remember renting is like real terrible like comedies like Airheads and
Oh yeah,
stuff like that. And I can't remember, like I know I was renting horror movies, but I can't remember what they were.
I think most of the actual intake of horror I had as a kid, like actual watching, was from being lucky enough to have the Cinemax HBO combo.
Right.
So, you know, staying up way past what your bedtime's supposed to be, and turning on the TV, and you flip through, and you see the faculty, and the lady's severed head is crawling across the football field while everyone's just kind of staring, like, oh shit.
Oh man. I'm trying to. Like, I remember renting Dawn of the Dead at one point, but I don't think that was the first one.
See, I caught a lot of the classics like that way late.
Yeah, I did too, but I remember Dawn of the Dead, like, something about the cover was like, I knew it was a horror movie, but it didn't look, like, scary. So
right.
I know, like, that was one of the first probably 10 I remember watching, like, as a full movie. I remember seeing Alien really young, which fucked me up.
Oh, yeah.
And Jaws, which, I guess, you know, kind of usually gets lumped in, but I wouldn't necessarily call a horror movie, but, like, Jaws
it's scary when you're young.
Well, I mean, to this day, fuck the ocean. Everything in the ocean is terrifying.
No, the ocean is literally just a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a liquid nightmare.
Like, I am more afraid of the ocean than, like, space or anything else. Like, I don't want anything to do with it.
I think one of the first big ones that I remember seeing was The Fly. I remember being on vacation with my family down in, I think it was San Antonio, and we went to Planet Hollywood, and they had a replica of the Brundlefly's head, like, mounted to the wall.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, you're sitting there trying to eat a burger, and you've got that thing glaring at you. I was like, what is that? My father's like, oh, it's from a movie called The Fly. It's really good. Like, we can watch it sometime. Terrible parenting. But we get back to the hotel room, and sure enough, it's on, like, TBS or something. But it was about halfway through, so just pick up immediately with Jeff Goldblum being all lumpy and gooey, and just, what's going on in this movie? And then he immediately jumps through a window to the abortion clinic to try and take away Gina Davis, and I was just traumatized.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Like, bringing up TBS, I have very fond memories of, before I knew who Joe Bob Briggs was, of watching, like, Monster Vision.
Right.
And then, like, I remember USA Up All Night used to play, like, a bunch of really terrible horror movies. And I would just watch them all night. I think I remember watching, like, I think Toxic Avenger on one of them, probably USA Up All Night. And being, like, my first introduction to, like, trauma movies, which I am a huge fan of.
Who isn't?
Yeah, I mean, just non-smart people. So, do you want to go ahead and talk about your favorite horror movies of all time, and then we'll get into, like, our favorite quote-unquote bad horror movies?
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
go ahead.
You go ahead.
All right. Well, you want to do, like, we'll do back and forth, I guess.
All right.
So, my top 5, I went with what I guess is not totally a horror movie, but usually thrown in with Let the Right One In.
Oh, yeah.
Which is
That's a good one.
Amazing. Like, that final scene with the swimming pool was maybe one of my favorite scenes in any movie ever made.
It's incredible. I was thinking about it just the other day at work. I don't know what brought it up, but I thought of that movie, and I just thought of how awesome that scene was, the camera work.
Oh,
being
yeah.
In the pool.
Just like the feet skittering across the water.
Yeah.
So good.
That was a big oh shit moment when I was watching it. So,
oh yeah, and then have you seen the remake?
Yes.
It is.
I thought it was pretty good.
It's okay. Like, I think Chloe Moretz does a decent job, but it just doesn't have that same feel.
Richard Jenkins does his best to to carry the whole film.
Yeah, that's a movie that is I don't think it's as hard of a job to do as like remaking Dawn of the Dead or Evil Dead, but like that's a movie that is kind of like beloved amongst certain people and like hard to probably go into and be like, I'm not gonna there's no way I'm not gonna fuck this up.
It's definitely a hard sell for an Americanized version of it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. All right, what do you got?
I would say probably my number one. My top three just kind of rotates between the same things. Number one's probably Alien.
Oh, yeah.
I adore Alien. I own a bunch of stupid Alien shit. I've got a little face hugger made out of bones sitting underneath my microphone right now. I didn't really fully appreciate it until like my late teens or early 20s, watching it, and just being blown away by the atmosphere of the whole thing and the slow build and the fact that it's so much scarier not showing your monster throughout most of the movie.
Yeah, Alien I think is the best horror movie. Like if I was going for like the best, I would put that at number one. But I have like Dawn of the Dead is always my favorite. But like Alien is pretty much a perfect movie. I think the only thing that I ever watched that I'm like, okay, this is kind of goofy, is the first time you see like the Xenomorph just kind of like pop out and it just does that reach.
And whenever he's in the air duct?
Yeah.
That always elicits a chuckle, because it looks like he's going for a hug.
Yeah, that like weird jump scare that goes nowhere. That's like the only thing I could ever criticize in that movie.
Thank God they cut out the crab walking scene.
Yeah. That's a movie I watch very regularly. And then my number 4, because I did top 5, and then so Alien was number 2. My number 4 was Frozen, the Adam Green movie.
I was really confused for a moment.
So I don't know. I'm taking it you haven't seen it. It is.
I have seen that Frozen. I just thought you were talking about Disney Frozen when you first said it.
The movie's very terrifying too. I remember seeing trailers for Adam Green's Frozen and being like, this is the dumbest fucking plot I've ever seen. They're just stuck on a ski lift.
Exact same. And then I watched it and was like, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it's like, I'm a big fan of horror movies that are like plausible.
Right.
That like just like the dread of just being like, oh fuck, I am stuck here for like a week. Like, what the fuck am I gonna do?
I've got a skiing trip next week.
And then like when that dude jumps off to try and save them and breaks his legs and gets eaten by wolves, like
brutal.
Yeah, the sound in that one, especially when he breaks his legs, is like super gross.
I want to be that guy for movies, the sound effect guy.
Oh yeah.
Try and figure out the best sound for just tearing open a human stomach,
breaking into a piece of celery or whatever it is. And I have a feeling I'm gonna guarantee you this one's on here. This is another one of mine, which is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yep. That was the next one I was going to go to.
Yeah, so go ahead. You can go ahead and jump into that one.
I think, weirdly, that one I watched on Netflix. And I was just like, this is a movie I've caught snippets of, and it seemed cool, like some cool gore in it, whatever. And I sat down and just fully paid attention to it, and it freaked me out. Because the first time the dog's just sitting there, and all the other dogs are kind of backing away, and then its head splits open. Oh man, I got chills.
Yeah, it definitely is, I would say, the best special effects of any movie.
Yeah, I would say easily.
Like, to this day, like, holds up better than I think special effects being done now.
The one scene that still absolutely blows me away, effects-wise, jump scare-wise, is whenever the dude's on the table, and they've got the defibrillators, and he goes in and zaps him, and he jumps, and he goes in again, and the stomach just opens up into a pit of teeth and takes the dude's hands off. Doc Copper just flails away from the table, blood pouring out of his wrists.
I think that, and then like the head kind of melting off the table,
yes.
And then like sprouting legs and just running off is probably my favorite.
But as much as I love all the gore and effects and all that, it's another one that's just tension through the roof throughout the whole thing. Everyone's slowly kind of diving into madness and isolation and paranoia.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. My whole list, if I really wanted to, would have just been like Alien and then like 4 John Carpenter movies.
Yeah,
so it took everything for me to not just put like all of John Carpenter's movies on here.
It's not too late to just pivot to being a John Carpenter podcast.
That's true.
I'm only going to talk about Prince of Darkness.
As long as we don't ever have to watch vampires.
I actually enjoyed vampires.
I just never want. I just don't want to talk about James Woods.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
So, what was your last movie? You had Alien and The Thing.
The Fly. The Fly was my other number 3. Anytime someone asks me my favorite movie, it's those 3, just depending on what day it is.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. My top 3 are pretty much always a rotation of The Thing, Alien, and Dawn of the Dead. The George Romero one, obviously, because the remake is garbage.
You're not a Zack Snyder fan?
I honestly, like, I'm not, it's not even necessarily Zack Snyder as much as I just don't like that version. Like, if you have Fast Zombies, I'm out already. Like, if I'm going to rate it, and I'm like, Fast Zombies already drops it from a 5 to a 2.5 for me.
Damn.
Like, I don't know. Like, it's dumb to say, because I'm like, why are you trying to find logic in, like, zombies? But, like, the logic behind it doesn't work for me, because I'm like, they're dead bodies. They shouldn't be able to run. Like, in my brain, I can make it the logical jump that, like, of course, they can shamble and just, like, move around, but, like, they shouldn't be able to run and jump over shit.
Now, is it them being fast in any capacity? Like, if they were slow zombies, but they had rollerblades and could move fast like that?
I would watch...
Is it a 3?
I would never not be watching an entire movie of zombies on rollerblades.
How has that not happened yet?
I think we should just abandon this and just make that movie.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and make roller disco zombies.
That's actually, like, if you think about it, I feel like there's gotta be a movie out there somewhere when there's movies like Flight of the Living Dead and, like, every kind of iteration of a zombie movie. I would not be surprised if there's some shitty, like, $5,000 movie made with just zombies on rollerblades.
I googled rollerblading zombie, and the only movie it brings up is Rollerball. So,
yeah, definitely not the same thing.
I don't know. Chris Klein's basically a zombie. He's got the range of one.
So, back to The Fly. I'm pretty much on board with anything Jeff Goldblum does.
Yep. Easily.
And he is...
Stick Jeff Goldblum in any movie, I'm in.
He is brilliant in that movie. Like, his just, like, weird mannerisms and shit work so well in The Fly.
It's super good for the neurotic kind of solo scientist guy working from his house.
Yeah, and I feel like the stuff that happens when he starts, like, into his transformation, like, I feel like the beginning parts of that is probably just him, like, being himself, like, just his weird
he's all
movements and
twitching
shit.
And
yeah.
He probably vomits on all of his own donuts. Like, that wasn't even a Fly thing.
Yeah, he was just like, I'm just gonna bring this real life part of how I eat into this movie.
My digestive issues.
All right, well, do you want to go ahead and we'll get into, since this podcast will probably mostly be about movies that are
Dog
usually,
shit.
yeah, considered to be bad that we kind of love, or just in general, we're just going to watch bad movies to see how bad they are. Let's go ahead and jump into our 5 favorite, like, quote-unquote bad movies. And if you want,
Hell
you
yes.
can go ahead and start that off again.
Oh yeah. One of my absolute favorites is a movie called Abominable.
I haven't even heard of that.
So the basic plot is Rear Window, only it's a man in a wheelchair watching his like cheerleader squad neighbors on a mountain get eaten one by one by an abominable snowman.
Oh, genius.
It's fantastic. And the Bigfoot design that they use, the snowman design that they use, is the goofiest fucking thing in the world. Like, he has no neck, his head's all squished down into his shoulders, he's got these big goofy eyes, and a underbite. There's one scene where he picks up a woman, and he just opens his mouth up like 3 feet, and just bites off the very top of her head. Just that. Not the whole head, just that, and tosses her off the mountain.
Is that streaming on anything? Because I want to watch that right now.
I don't think it is, sadly.
Come on, Shudder. What are you doing?
But we're living in such a wonderful time that it just got a deluxe Blu-ray release.
I'm looking that shit up like as soon as we're done.
There's like 9 people like me that want to own it.
Oh, there's about to be 10 because that sounds amazing.
If you're somehow not sold yet, listener, it also stars Lloyd Braun from Seinfeld as the man in the wheelchair.
Amazing.
That might be a deep dive for people. A bit of a reach.
Does it work as like if you just think of him as Lloyd Braun the entire time? Like it's in the same universe?
That's all I think of him as like throughout my whole life. I have no idea what that guy's name is. I'm just like, oh hey, there's Lloyd Braun.
Alright, so my list was basically, it could have been all Troma movies because they are all terrible, but they're all amazing. So I had to limit it to one, which was Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead, which is
Of course.
fucking terrible, but I love it. And like anything Lloyd Kaufman wants to do, I will support 100%. And it's essentially just it's a zombie movie in a KFC type restaurant where people start turning into chicken zombies and attacking people, and it is very dumb.
I actually have a friend of a friend who interned for Troma and had a scene cut from that movie.
Oh, that's amazing. I feel like being an intern for Troma has to be the worst job.
He said it was interesting. His big story was that he took a shit next to Lloyd Kaufman in a porta-john.
Like, at one point, I owned roughly, 150 Troma DVDs that I unfortunately had to sell at one point. And, every Lloyd Kaufman one, the audio commentary, all the behind-the-scenes stuff, was just talk about how, because they had no money, that, it would just be everybody that worked in that movie in, one room to stay in for the night. And, they would all just, shit in paper bags. And it just sounded fucking terrible.
That sounds like a great time to me. Sign me up.
I think it would be interesting enough for, the stories. But I have a feeling, I think it would be cool afterwards when you're looking back on it. But during it, I would be like, this sucks.
Get me out of here.
Definitely. Yeah, that movie is ridiculous. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It is...
I've seen about half of it, I think.
It's very terrible, and I love it.
I need to do a doubleheader, that and Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is amazing.
It's a Thanksgiving tradition.
It's... I can't remember if I rented it or if I actually own it.
I hope you own it.
I know I own
For your
Ginger.
sake.
I own Ginger Dead Man. I can't remember if I own Thanksgiving, but Thanksgiving, the puppet in it is so terribly bad that like it's. Oh God, I love that movie. That's a Full Moon production, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, those are always. Those are. I have a feeling that will probably be a bunch of movies we end up watching for this,
Probably
like
80%.
Evil Bong, and
Oh man,
I'm pretty sure there's a Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong movie.
there is.
Oh God, I can't wait to watch that. All right, so
All right.
what else you got?
One of my other top ones that I just recently rewatched because it was on Prime Video, a absolute haven for dog shit horror movies, was Hammerhead Shark Frenzy, aka Sharkman. I believe was a sci-fi original movie where a scientist tries to save his son from cancer, but the experiments turn him into half man, half shark. And a group of people from a pharma company go to the island where he's conducting these experiments to investigate, and obviously all just get murdered by shark people.
That sounds terrible and amazing.
Starring Jeffrey Combs as the doctor performing the experiments and turning people into half man, half sharks.
Pretty much anything with Jeffrey Combs is going to be worth a watch.
Absolutely. He nails it, as he always does.
Yeah, he is very good. And you said it was a sci-fi movie?
I want to say it was a sci-fi original movie. It was one of the first ones I watched. I was like, wow, sci-fi just makes bad movies, but they do it every week. This is incredible.
Have you seen Alien Apocalypse with Bruce Campbell?
Yes.
I believe that was a sci-fi movie as well, and it is real bad. But it has Bruce Campbell in it, so it's obviously worth watching, because Bruce Campbell is always good.
I think that was around the same time that he did The Man with the Screaming Brain. I think it's another sci-fi original.
That is like the one Bruce Campbell movie that is like hard to watch. Like I will pretty much sit through anything with Bruce Campbell, and I remember renting that and being like, "Oh my God, this is not good, but not good in a good or like it's bad in a hard to watch way."
Bad way.
Yeah,
yeah. My brother bought it for me one year, and I never even opened it. It's like, yeah, thanks. I'm gonna stash this.
it's. I don't know. Something about that movie was like very difficult for me to get through, which is like I can sit through the entire run of like a Jack of all trades and Briscoe County Jr. with no problem.
Wow.
But like that movie was hard to sit through.
It was boring. There's nothing interesting that happened in it.
Yeah, it's mostly just him running around and talking to himself in like Russia or Siberia, I forget where. Alright, so one of my other ones is Erotic Nights of the Living Dead, which is...
I've never heard of that.
It is... I don't remember how I came across it, but I ended up buying it at one point because I found it used on DVD for super cheap, and then realized it went for a bunch of money, and then I sold it. But it is legitimately, like... This guy named Joe D'Amato, who made that and a movie called Porno Holocaust at the same time with the same cast that basically follows the same plot of like businessmen who go to an island to have sex and are killed off by zombies. And it is got...
That's a tried and true plot.
It has actual sex scenes in it, so it's like half porn and like half zombie movie, which I don't know why anybody wants that.
Why don't you want that?
It like
sounds delightful.
It is real weird, and it was made in like 1980, I think, and has a scene with a stripper who does a very terrible striptease, and then opens a bottle of champagne with her vagina. And it is easily one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but also, like, worth watching if you could find it because of how terrible it is. Like, the zombies are very, like the Knight Templar type zombies. Like, where they almost kind of just look like mummies.
Oh, okay.
But it's ridiculous. It's worth a watch if you can ever come across it, but it seems very difficult. Like, IMDb doesn't even have, like, a page for it when I looked it up. Which should tell you a lot.
Is there human on zombie sex in the movie? Or is it all human on human and then zombies interrupt?
It's all pretty much human on human, where it'll basically just be like a sex scene, and then they'll get done and just go like walking around and get attacked. And like there's one, for what I remember, on like a sex scene on the boat before they get to the island. Like, it's all just real weird. Like, it almost looks like two movies just smashed together for like no reason.
I feel like it's a wasted opportunity.
It, like,
have some interspecies erotica.
It, I'm assuming, made no money, because as far as I can tell, this guy only made these two movies. And they're like Italian, so
I was gonna ask if it was Italian.
Oh,
it sounds super
of course
Italian.
It is. And like like any of the actual like dialogue is like blatantly probably not what they were saying. Like, and none of it syncs up well. It is just a very terrible movie, but I love it.
I never thought I'd be so excited about, a porno that involves some zombies intervening.
I unfortunately have not been able to see Porno Holocaust because I want to see how terrible that is. That one seems even harder to come across than Erotic Nights of the Living Dead.
I saw Mondo selling the soundtrack to Porno Holocaust recently. Really? Yes.
Maybe.
So if you want sexy sounds to bang and murder to,
I would 100% buy like a reissue of either of those movies if they came out. Nice crisp
it's 2018. Blu-ray. There's probably going to be like a triple Blu-ray box set going to be coming out for it.
I would buy that. I would pre-order that immediately. Alright, so what else you got on yours?
My next pick's mainstream, but it's one that I watch all the goddamn time, and that's Jason X.
Oh, I almost put that on mine. That was almost my number 5.
I'm such a sucker for taking any dumb concept and flinging it into space.
Yeah, I almost had that. It was like a toss-up between that and then Leprechaun 4.
Oh, man.
Because Leprechaun 4 is amazing. I didn't see Jason X until maybe a couple years ago, when I think like Netflix had like all the Friday the 13th movies at one point.
Right.
And like I'd always heard how terrible it was, and then I was like, of course it's terrible, it's Jason in space. But like then I finally watched it and I was like, this movie is amazing. Like where he like freeze dries like the one lady or whatever.
And smashes her head onto that table.
So good.
But I was super excited to see it because it hit theaters whenever I was in high school, and obviously I had terrible music taste because I was in high school. So it used "Bodies" by Drowning Pool, and it's just a minute-long trailer of Jason just stabbing people on a spaceship. I was like, this is going to be the greatest film of all time. And I watched it, and, I mean, not far off. It was basically the greatest film of all time.
Oh, yeah, it's so good.
Certainly the greatest Jason in space film.
the best out of the one.
They've got the Crystal Lake simulation.
Oh, yeah, with the sleeping bags.
Yep, the two women just show up topless, like, oh, how about we have premarital sex? And he just immediately beelines to them, It's like, alright, well, I've got to murder them now.
I still, like, I hold the original sleeping bag one where he just, like, smashes them into the tree as one of my favorite deaths in a horror movie.
It's fantastic.
Because it just seems, it's like, it's so, like, brutal to think about, like, how bad that would feel as opposed to just, like, I guess, you know, just being, like, stabbed and dying or whatever. Because it just seems like it would take so much longer.
A gigantic man flinging you spine first into a tree.
Oh, God, that sounds terrible.
It's not my preferred way to die.
So, my next one is one we have both talked about, and we will most likely probably do on one of these future episodes, which is 1972's Night of the Lepus.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which is, anybody that hasn't seen it, is basically a movie about rabbits murdering people. But
giant rabbits.
Yeah, giant rabbits that I only know of because of my wife and who used to make references to it when we had our pet rabbit. And so, like, it has this kind of weird, like, special emotional place to me that we used to joke about, like, our rabbit being one of the Night of the Lepus rabbits.
You're the only person that can say you have, like, a deep emotional connection to Night of the Lepus.
Oh, yeah, I guarantee you, even the people that made that movie hate it.
One thing that always surprised me about Night of the Lepus is how good the effects are for 72.
Also for a movie about giant rabbits.
Also for that.
Like,
I'm trying to hedge just a little bit, not too much.
I would love to just see a documentary about that movie to, like, just figure out, which I'm sure you could probably find stuff about it online. I haven't looked super into it, but I bet, like, I just want to know how that movie came about. And in general, like, I would love to see how anybody felt about that movie after it was made.
Why anyone signed up to do it?
It's also interesting that if you look up, like, William Claxton, the guy who directed it, his entire filmography is, like, mostly TV stuff. Like, it's, like...
None of which features rabbits, I assume.
Well, he did an episode of Gunsmoke, and then it's, like... After Night of the Lepus is, like, 57 episodes of Bonanza, 68 episodes of Little House on the Prairie, like 10 episodes of Fame, 2 episodes of Highway to Heaven. So, like, it looks like it's all, like, that's the only actual movie he ever made, and everything else was just, like, TV episodes and, like, miniseries stuff.
Maybe Night of the Lepus ruined the Hollywood experience for him.
Well, yeah, actually, it looks like he's got a couple, like, western-y type movies. Yeah, he's got a bunch of movies before that, but they're all, like, 50s, like, westerns and, like...
He's really into the western thing, because Night of the Lepus is, like, a small little western town that's set in, you know?
Desire in the Dust is one of his movies.
That sounds like it could be an Italian zombie porno.
It looks real bad. I don't know what this is about, but it looks terrible.
It's about desire in the dust.
Yeah. So, alright, so what do you got next?
I think I'm going to go with Spiders.
Alright.
Which is, I mentioned it earlier, it was about a crew on a spaceship, and they bring a spider with them to do whatever kind of genetic testing, and obviously they pass through some radiation, and it causes the genetic mods they were doing on the tarantula to go crazy, and it massacres everyone on the ship and lays eggs in them, and the ship crashes back to Earth. And once they recover it, they find the bodies, but the bodies are filled with spider eggs, and they all hatch as gigantic spiders. So the spiders running around laying eggs in people, growing bigger and bigger spiders until a town's eventually overrun by gigantic spiders.
Amazing. Pretty much any movie that you have any sort of like radiated creature in it is worth a watch.
Absolutely. There's two things I really love, and it is irradiated monsters and spiders. So if you can make a spider the irradiated monster, like, I'm gonna watch that movie.
Yeah,
a lot.
Definitely. I need to check that out. We were talking about that before we started recording, and I've never seen it, and now I want to.
I would assume that it's on Prime Video.
Prime Video is amazing.
It's
just like
so good for horrible things.
Like, mine doesn't update because I just have it on the Wii U, and since they just kind of stopped updating shit on there, it's hard for me to like dig through stuff. But like, usually I come across like just the absolute worst looking movies on there.
My recommended movie list on it is absolutely fucked because I watch garbage like Larva and Reptilian on it. So, I'll dig for like 20 minutes and it's like, oh hey, how about you watch, Moonlight, an actual good award-winning movie. I'm like, nah, there's a killer shark movie over here I haven't seen.
Yeah. Alright, so my next one is Tobe Hooper's Eaten Alive.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not a good movie at all.
Not remotely.
And, like, I don't understand how that was a follow-up to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's like it was directed by a totally different person.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's like it just looks real, like, muted. Like, the colors in it are just, I don't understand how he went from, like, the glory of Texas Chainsaw Massacre into this movie that, like, when you look at from the outside, you're like, oh shit, this is going to be about, like, a dude and, like, an alligator eating people, and it, like, happens, like, once in the movie.
I was so excited the first time I heard of that movie. I was like, oh, a Tobe Hooper movie about, someone feeding people to an alligator. That's the coolest concept in the world. And then I watched it and was like, there's really very little of that. This is just strange and bad and slow.
Yeah, that's the main thing, is it is real slow. Like, nothing really happens in that movie. And then, like, the last, like, 5 minutes or whatever, like, something happens, and you're just like, that was it? And I still...
Not even Robert Englund could carry it.
I still watch it all the time. I own, like, the 2-disc, like, DVD of it for some reason.
Are you just hoping that maybe one of these days it'll be good?
I'm like, one
It'll
day...
be overrun with alligators?
One day I'm just going to be like, this movie is the best thing ever made. I'm just going to force myself into loving it.
It's going to be like 8 episodes into this podcast.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to watch that, because it is... I just want to talk about how terrible the actors in that movie are. Especially, like, the motel keeper dude.
Jesus.
Alright, well, you got one more?
Yes, I'll save my best one for last. And this one is so life-changingly, fantastically dumb that you can divvy up your life into before having seen it and after. And that is another sci-fi original masterpiece known as Mansquito.
Oh my god.
AKA Mosquito Man, for the fucking lame asses that don't think Mansquito's a good name.
Sci-fi is just like, I don't know who comes up with this shit, but like that and like Lavalantula, and like I just want that job of just coming up with like, what's the next movie going to be?
Come up with the names, yeah, the weird concepts. But for anyone who has not had the privilege of seeing Mansquito, it's The Fly, except they turn a guy into a mosquito. Like, that's literally it. That's all it is. It doesn't have any of the depth or anything. It's just, oh, hey, We turned a dude into a mosquito, and now he's running around sucking people's heads off.
Well, as a mansquito would do.
Yeah, of course. I don't know what you expect when you have a 6-foot-tall mosquito. Mansquito.
I feel like the sci-fi movies are going to be a lot of watching on this and a lot of terrible watching. Because I've only seen a handful. Like, I had no real interest in watching, like, Sharknado or any of that shit.
Right.
But, like, some of them I've seen, like, the titles of alone, and I'm just like, okay, I would definitely watch that. Because there's no way it's going to be good. And it's always got some, like, weird, like, has-been 80s star in it that you're just like, what the fuck happened to that person?
It's the mid-2000s sci-fi movies
that
are really the cream of the crop. Because, all the recent ones are just like, let's hammer out a shitty CG, whatever, half shark, half crocodile versus a helicopter that is part donkey movie every week. And
I want to watch your movie. Enjoyable. I want to watch your movie.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd watch the donkey helicopter movie. That sounds pretty sweet.
I'm emailing Sci-Fi as soon as we get done. Alright, so my last pick, maybe a controversial choice, because I don't know if it would necessarily fit as a horror movie per se, but I fucking love it, and I was one of probably 30 people that went to see it in the theater, which is Tusk by Kevin Smith.
Oh, hell yeah.
And have you seen it?
Yes. Oh, I love Tusk.
It is so good. And, like, in general, I'm a Kevin Smith fan, like, especially, like, his podcasts.
Right.
So, like, I remember listening to the podcast that this movie came about from and being like, I swear to God, if he doesn't make this movie, I'm going to be so angry.
I'm going to be honest, I find it controversial just because I find Tusk to actually be a good movie.
I agree, but I also realize it's probably got, like, a below 30%, like, score on, like, Rotten Tomatoes, and, like, I know people hate it. And even he's just like, yeah, it's dumb and it's not good, but I love it.
It got a 42 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's that high. I fucking love this movie. And, like, I was so stoked when I saw it in the theater for the first time, and especially, like, if people haven't seen it, essentially, it just boils down to a guy puts out, like, a Craigslist-type post or, like, the original story is, like, a guy in Europe, I think it was a site called Gumtree, which is essentially our Craigslist, puts out, this guy put out this fake post on Gumtree saying he was looking for a roommate that they could live with him for free, but, like, for 2 hours a day, they had to wear this walrus suit and, like, not be allowed to talk, and he would, like, throw fishes to them, and they just had to be a walrus for those 2 hours, but the rest of the time was their own time. They could do whatever they wanted, but they had to pretend to be this walrus with this dude. And it came out like the guy, like, it was just like a hoax. And Kevin Smith...
so sad.
Yeah, Kevin Smith talks about it on his podcast where, like, him and Scott Mosier are, like, talking about it, and, like, as they're kind of, like, building this fake movie in their heads, like, halfway through, you can kind of hear Kevin Smith be like, no, like, where the fuck are filmmakers? How come someone's not going to make this movie? And he was like, oh, yeah, I used to be a filmmaker. And
Let's do it.
He makes it, and it's basically, like, Michael Parks in the movie is fucking brilliant. Like, he is, like, creepy and just weird. And I think it's one of my favorite performances in a movie. And then, like, essentially it's just him turning Justin Long into a walrus. And the walrus suit is fucked up and weird.
It's so gross.
And, like...
But in the best way.
When I was watching in the theater, like, the entire time, I'm like, Fleetwood Mac has to be in this movie. Like, he has to play Fleetwood Mac. And then that final scene where, like, spoilers, Michael Parks comes out with his own walrus suit and they fight and Tusk starts playing, I lost my fucking mind. Like, I was like, this is the best movie of all time. If this movie deserves to win every Oscar, like, this is fucking amazing.
It's one of those films where, while I was watching, like, my mind goes for ridiculous places, and I think, man, I really hope this movie goes there. And that movie delivered every single time. I'm like, okay, well, I hope he really gets a fucked up walrus suit that's all just stapled together and looks awful. And it gets there. It's like, well, what's the next step? Are they gonna have, like, walrus battle? Like, are they gonna, like, fight or fuck? What is this? And then, sure enough, he comes out in that walrus suit, and they have to have a battle. And it's rare that I have a movie that keeps up with how dumb my brain gets while watching movies.
Yeah, and like, there's no way that movie couldn't have just gone, like, completely, like, balls to the wall. Like, it had to with that premise. Like, you could not have made a movie like that without just being like, no, fuck yeah, there's 2 walrus suits. Here you go.
Can you imagine if it had been done by, like, Aronofsky?
No, it was like all serious and dark.
Although now that I mention it, I kind of want to see that movie.
Oh, I mean, if anybody made a movie about turning somebody into a human walrus, I'm gonna watch it. But I'm glad it was Kevin Smith that made it. And it's like, I don't know, like, there's levels to that movie that I just enjoy in general, from, like, spending, like, a decade listening to his podcast and, like, 20 years watching his movies, that there's, like, references to all of it. So, like, it all hits me from, like, different angles. And, like, I wish that movie had, like, I guess now that it's on, like, Netflix and stuff, I think more people are coming around to it. But I think when it was just, like, a home, like, you had to buy it on DVD or, like, went to see it, like, in the theater, it didn't seem like many people were into it. But I think I've seen a lot of people coming around to it now, which seems like how most of his movies work.
I'm not gonna lie, for a lot of people, I can see how man turns another man into a walrus is not something they would want to pay for.
Oh, those people are wrong.
As intriguing as it is. So I could see it catching on bigger being on a streaming service than, having to go out of your way and paying to see it.
I highly suggest everybody go to pay and see it regardless.
Same.
Definitely watch it on Netflix and then just go buy the DVD.
I'm all for supporting super weird shit.
Yeah.
If everyone could watch a Greasy Strangler, like that's my ideal world.
That movie is fucked up. So, the general idea of this podcast will end up being us, eventually probably some guests. Like, I know I've talked to a couple people, but I know we want to do, like, at least a handful of just us first so we can figure all this shit out. Because we both seem
try and get in our groove.
We definitely both seem very technologically disadvantaged at this. And
if you guys knew the struggle to get this up and running.
But we're probably going to watch mostly really shitty movies and just talk about them. With probably, like, because I know at some point I'm going to be like, we should just watch The Thing. Why aren't we watching Alien?
Right.
So we'll probably do, like, some quote-unquote, like, palate cleanser type movies in between. But I definitely want to get, like, some guests and just be like, what's your favorite real shitty movie? Let's watch that. And I'm guessing it'll probably be a lot of, like, leaning heavily on, like, Amazon Prime and, like, Shudder and streaming services, just because that's the easiest way to do this, especially if we have guests. It'll just be like, oh, well, you got, like, Netflix. Let's find a movie on there.
Yeah, I think Prime Video is gonna wind up being the go-to.
Oh God, there's definitely some choice cuts on there. I can't wait to get to Chopping Mall. Chopping Mall is like a fucking amazing movie.
I own Chopping Mall.
Yeah, I remember seeing
dedicated I am.
Thing you post about buying that on Blu-ray. My problem is all this shit's coming out on Blu-ray that, like, I either already own on DVD that I'm just like, I don't want to rebuy this. But I also, like, I'm like a sucker for, like, special features and shit. So I'm just like, oh
Yep.
god, but this has special features, and like the DVD's only got like trailers on it, but I don't want to spend another $30 for this.
Bastards.
Yeah, I've
They just released Brain Scan on Blu-ray, which I caved and bought on iTunes like 3 months ago. I was like, son of a bitch. They're getting another $25 from me.
yeah, you seem to buy a lot of like Blu-rays and then like the Mondo and like Waxwork records, and I'm very jealous.
I own so much shit. I had to move a bunch of records out of the way so I could set up my laptop and my microphone for this.
Like I always see Mondo post stuff, and I'm just like, God, I want that. But I'm also like, I don't want to spend $40 on a record.
I showed self-restraint this week, and I managed to not buy a single Dario Argento thing that Waxwork released.
I would buy everything Goblin has ever recorded, and like I would be so poor. I got to see.
But you'd have a sweet soundtrack to get through life with.
I saw Goblin at Maryland Death Fest a couple years ago. I just like wept through the entire thing. Because like as soon as they started playing like stuff from Dawn of the Dead and like Demons and Suspiria, and I was just fucking losing it.
It's one of the coolest things I ever got to see was they did a live score to Dawn of the Dead 2 or 3 years ago at the Housecore Horror Film Fest. They started the movie at like midnight, and it was in this place called the Aztec Theater, so it's all decked out and wild looking like a Aztec temple, and they're up on stage while it's just playing on this big like 100-foot screen behind them.
I would lose my mind. Like I said, Dawn of the Dead has been my favorite movie since I was a kid, and like I just like as soon like I forget what song they played at Death Fest from it, but they showed like they had like a screen in the background and they were showing like clips from the movies and stuff while they were playing, and they were playing the scene where they're trying to move the semis in front to block the doors and stuff.
Yeah.
And like as soon as it started, I just like welled up, and I was like, oh my god, this is like, it was like one of those moments. Yeah, it was just one of those moments that I was like, I'm never going to not be thinking about this. It was amazing. And like someone had to play after them, and like everybody there was just like, why the fuck did they do, like nobody wants to see anybody else. This was like a perfect ending. Why is like, I think Kraft was playing after them, and like everybody left.
I like Kraft, but I wouldn't stick around for Kraft. I
did. Like, I wanted to see them, but after that, I was like, I can't be here anymore. I was like, I gotta go.
I need to decompress.
I know we definitely I think we're probably gonna end up trying to talk about news or like trailers and stuff on here every once in a while. And I know we wanted to talk about the second Halloween trailer, which I was very skeptical about this movie. Even a little bit during the first trailer, like that teaser trailer got released, I was like, all right, I'm going to see it anyway, but like, I'm not super into this. So this trailer sold the shit out of me.
So this trailer was super incredible watching it, starting with that super long shot.
Yes.
Michael bumps into the kid on the street and walks back into that tool shed.
I hope that shot in the actual movie is like all of that, and then I hope it's all one shot from that, and then into the house, into the murder, and then grabbing the knife. Like, I hope it's just fucking super long, because that was my favorite part of the trailer, was just like that one continuous shot, and then like when you see him walking down the driveway and like the old lady goes in the house and you see him just kind of like cock his head to the side to look. I don't know why, but I was just like, that fucking rules. And then
I'm gonna be honest, my favorite part of the trailer was the hat tip to Halloween 3, just because I'm a big Season of the Witch stan.
Yeah, I didn't notice that until I rewatched it after you said something, and I was like, oh shit, that mask.
the three kids all dressed up in their Silver Shamrock masks. It's like, ah!
And then, like, I'm always on board with anybody using, like, a hammer. So when you see him grab the hammer first, I was like, because, again, that's just another thing that just seems so much worse than just, like, a knife.
It's a really brutal weapon. Like, there's not... Like, with a knife, you can accidentally stab something that's vital and you're dead very quickly. The hammer, that doesn't really happen. You're being bludgeoned for a while.
It seems way more personal, too. Like, I don't know. Something in my mind, I'm like, I could see a knife being, like... It's, like, a more precise thing, whereas a hammer, you're just, like, doing fucking damage.
Swinging away.
And then... I didn't realize it until, like, last night I saw Jamie Lee Curtis tweet something, like a picture from, I think, the TIFF premiere, that Judy Greer is in it. So now, in my mind, Judy Greer is playing her character from Arrested Development, who, like, just got out of that family, like, drama and, like, started a new life and is now just stuck in this movie.
How great would that cinematic universe be?
If just, like, she's like, oh my
shared
god.
world between Arrested Development and Halloween.
I just put this together, too, that, like, Michael Myers and, like, Michael Bluth, like, she always calls him, like, you know, like, George Michael and whatever, and she's always like, say goodbye to these, Michael, and, like, lifts up her shirt. So now, like, I can just picture that with, like, Michael Myers.
Is this gonna be like, the Ferris Bueller Fight Club theory?
Yes. And then, I know the last thing in it, that, like, it was in the first trailer, but, like, him dropping those...
Be every trailer.
Him dropping
so
those
good.
teeth is, like, the, like, fucking worst. Like, it bums me out so much, and I love it. Because, like, anything with teeth is just gonna fuck me up from the get-go. But, like,
my eyes went so wide whenever he opened his hand and you just see bloody teeth hit the floor.
Like, can you just imagine, like, being in that scenario where you're just sitting there and all of a sudden this, like, gross, bloody hand comes over and starts dropping teeth? I would die right then. Like, he wouldn't have to murder me. I would just have a fucking heart attack.
That'd be the best shit of my life, though. Sitting on that toilet.
Like, it looks like from this trailer, they're going with, like, the John Carpenter feel with almost maybe, like, the Rob Zombie brutality to it. Which, like, I want to see how he gets those teeth.
The other thing is, that's got me hyped for it is they just started releasing reviews yesterday for it. And they've all been great so far, from what I've seen.
Yeah, I've seen, like, a lot of praise for it, and then, like, a handful of kind of, like, mixed reviews where they're like, it's good, it's not great, but, like, regardless. Like,
yeah.
Going into that movie, especially with the, you know, like, 8 or 9 sequels to it that are all kind of garbage except 2 and 3. Which,
yes.
3, you can't even really count as a sequel, but, like, I was very skeptical when this was first announced, but, like, it looks like it's going to be at least, like, watchable, as opposed to, you know, like, the Paul Rudd was the number 6 with, like, the cult and shit. And Resurrection is absolutely terrible.
So the H2O that we were talking about?
Yeah, H2O is the one that I watched recently that everyone was like, I kind of like that movie, and I was like, this isn't good, but, like, whatever.
It's decent.
I mean, they're all at least watchable and, like, an aspect of, like, you know what's going to happen, but, like...
Super incredible they found a way to make a sequel after Jamie Lee Curtis just lops his head right the hell off.
Yeah. And then, like, you know, put Busta Rhymes in it. Which is probably, like, the only good aspect of that movie. You got anything else you want to talk about on that? Before we jump off of here?
No, I think that about covers it.
All right. Yeah, like, so the next one of these we do will be a movie that we haven't figured out yet, and it'll probably be a movie each episode. Um, and, if we can plan this out far enough ahead, we will try and let people know what the next movie is going to be, so if they want to watch it first. But,
Yeah, I think this is just kind of a getting our feet wet episode.
yeah.
You know, we'll get things figured out, and I think we can definitely get on a kind of schedule where we'll be able to let people know episode to episode what's coming up.
I mean, we're definitely, if I could figure out a way to watch it, doing Abomination as soon as possible.
Lloyd Braun, Snowman.
We should just only watch horror movies made with people from Seinfeld.
We'd run out pretty quick, but I'd be okay with it.
All right.
We'll just watch Abomination like 8 episodes in a row.
Yeah, just do Abomination over and over again. All right, well, that's all for this episode. We will catch you guys on the next one.